2001 high school. I was, looking for employment, and college just didn't seem like the right fit for me. And now, of course, as I'm older, I better understand, or what, you know what I mean? We can always wish that we did something different, but mortgage is exactly what it was that, I fell in love with. Right. So I started off kind of where everybody started off back in the early 2000 era, in subprime, and it's kind of funny because all of this entails in each other. Right. So we all kind of started out in the subprime to a certain extent,
myself included.
And then Alt-A kind of stepped into the world. So you have like your Bear Stearns so subprime is like your stated paper, your nonsense, loans. Part of what kind of stumbled us into 2008. Then I went into that Alt-A paper related world, and I was, with Bear Stearns. But during that time, this is 2008, right, Pablo? So we're talking about the Negam products, the Pick-a-Pay products. And we all kind of know, how that went.
Right.
And so I was in California at that time, because at that time, Irvine, California, that was the largest centralized mortgage hub in the nation. That's just where anything mortgage related was happening. And but before I knew it, in the blink of a night, Lehman Brothers fell, and then Bear Stearns fell, and then World Savings fell. Everything just kind of started toppling. So now all of a sudden it's 2010, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I was a little bit lost, Pablo, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, me, I'm a total open book, like overnight, every single one of these companies, they closed their doors. Before you knew it, you looked around, there was no mortgage companies left in like Southern California at all. Mm-hmm. They either closed their doors, or people started getting smart and they started opening up operations in other areas of the nation. Where it's, cheaper to employ, cheaper to house, cheaper commercial space, everything that's, involved. And, by the grace of God, respectfully, I was very, very tight with some of the people that I had worked with at Bear Stearns. And I had received an opportunity to move out to Arizona. And that's when I started in the wholesale banking world, working for Caliber Home Loans, as me and it. Mm-hmm. New Res today, Caliber, New Res, whatever they're calling each other now. So I started out in the quality control related world, and very quickly moved into underwriting. Pablo, what I realized is that when everything fell and I had nothing left, I didn't understand why I was left with nothing, to be perfectly frank with you. I only understood the inertia of how to put a loan together and how to get it closed, but I didn't understand the back end piece. Where does this paper go when we're done with it? And I fell in love with underwriting and quality control and operations. I wanted to have a better, deeper grasp and true understanding of why did 2008 happen, right? And so I fell in love with underwriting, and I started sticking my nose in the book. And I got my DE authority, my FHA authority, and then at one point or another, I found myself onboarding underwriters regularly, almost every single day, for Caliber Home Loans. And then that kind of cycled into secondary signature for jumbo loan products and all these other, products that it is that they had. And, but the kicker is, this is right around like 2012 to 2015. And I was still relatively young at that point, but I was working from home remote. It was my first remote job ever, but I was like in my early 20s, and I've got a love for people, brother. That. Yeah, I've got a love for people. I wanted to get back into the workforce. So I actually left the wholesale banking related world. And I stumbled into retail related lending, because in order for me to better understand or grasp all of this, I think that the experience and the exposure to all of these experiences are important. So I went ahead and I took a job as a retail underwriter. That's, Pablo, when I fell in love with education. What was happening is, as a retail underwriter, I was helping our loan officers structure their loan transactions. And then I said, well, wait a second. If I can start educating these people how to structure it, instead of structuring it for them after it gets to me, I can deliver a better customer service experience. My loan officer can deliver a better customer service experience, And I spoke with a very close friend of mine, John Richter, and he gave me an opportunity to step out of the underwriting related realm. And I was the VP of onboarding. And so what would happen is, we would pick up branches, loan officers, any loan officer that was new to my company at that time. They would go through me first. I would go ahead and onboard them. I would give them the technology. I would teach them how to use it to their advantage, teach their real estate agents how to use this information to their advantage. And it's during that time that I met an individual out here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was also consulting because I had really just fallen in love with the education. So I was teaching loan officers how to take appropriate 1003s back then, of course, because it's no longer the 1003, it's now the URLA, right? And
all online.
Yeah, everything is online based. Everything is driven through technology, and there's a million ways to get to the finish line. And that's the interesting piece about technology. But yeah, so Pablo, basically what happened is I found myself out here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was running a retail related firm, and through my love of technology and all the vendors that we were utilizing, that's how they introduced me to Sales Boomerang. That's how I met you guys. I'll never forget, stumbling into you. I remember feeling like there's no such thing as a product that could be true in this space based on what you guys were doing. And in speaking with you, and in you onboarding my loan officers, I started understanding, well, like, this is possible. It's just a completely different mind and skill set of the technology sector specific to helping the mortgage bankers or brokers of the world, right?
Right.
And shoot, that's how I met you. I still have a cup sitting around here somewhere. Our first month in business with you guys, I think we did a 60-time return. We had a big book of business and not really an appropriately running CRM, and a lot of people that we could have done a better job reaching out to. And Sales Boomerang, you more so, really helped us get an understanding of why we need to reach out and what do those words look like and how do we bring these people back. So since then, we've both jumped into these new spaces and new endeavors. And what I've gone ahead and done is I've taken a step back from the retail banking related world back into the broker related world. And I run a brokerage with a very close friend of mine out here in North and South Carolina. And, we've been, open since October. And, Pablo, I've never been happier as far as my career is concerned. And that's regardless of the time that we're in. What I realized that I longed for as a professional was finding a better work-life balance. That's always historically been my issue. Work until there's nothing left. But in having a daughter who's 3 years old, all of these things, they just kind of started clicking to me, and knowing people like you, family oriented, professionals that I'm so tight with. And I look at like my own friends and family, Pablo, I realized I was doing it wrong. And so I took a step back from the larger corporate world into the more, intimate broker related space where, I still cater to and work with loan officers. I still educate on the side. Now the education is just a little bit different. It's educating us as to where we are today and how we got here, and not the same stuff. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily just teaching a new loan officer, how to take an application. It's, hey, you haven't been in this space for the last couple of years. So let me give you the Cliff's Notes as to what's occurred, why we're here now, and what I respectfully view to be the future of this realm that it is that you're just stumbling into. And oh, by the way, if for whatever reason, you don't believe me, here's what industry experts are saying, and I give them this material for food for fodder, right? Pablo, one thing that better than anybody is, when you're coaching, when you're working with people, your word is only as good as the attention span of the people that we're working with. And with all due respect, my clients with access to everything on the internet, everybody that I know will sniff out bullshit immediately. So this day and age, the technology related sector to me, and teaching this technology related sector, is more so based on making sure that the student, the customer, the consumer, whoever this user is, really understands why we're having this conversation today. Because today's conversation is how we're going to pave the future. Right?
Yeah. So you talk, there's a lot of parts of your story that I love. And actually it's a great example of, the progression of so many mortgage, and let's just call it financial space entrepreneurs that are here today, that were literally brewed back in, the mid 2000s, leading into the recession at that time. So guys like you and I, but we have an opportunity. I look at guys like you and I as we are the opportunity to then pass down the torch, and not saying we're going anywhere. So that torch it's still lit us, right? It still has lit us. But you talk about education, you talk about technology. And so in this passing of the torch, and you and I have had this conversation. Talk to me about, what do our industries, right? And we're going to talk about how mortgage and insurance kind of make sense to have that, why are we talking about this on this podcast? But talk to me specifically about, what does education look like when it comes to technology, relationships? What do they need to learn, or really what should we be teaching them?
Yeah. So that's a killer question. The first thing that I always thought about when someone said, let's sit down and let me educate you, it was that childish sense in me, of which it's like, wait a second, I've already been through school. I don't want to deal with this. Pablo, the craziest thing about this landscape that we're in right now is, truth be told, whether we like it or not, nobody ever really wanted education in the last 4 or 5 years. There was a time in this industry, whether you were on the insurance side, the title side, the mortgage side, the broker side, the banker side, didn't matter, right? But there was a time where loans were literally falling from the sky. That's right. We had no time to educate or understand. But what was really interesting about that time is that certain technology features that came out required education to better help us serve individuals, right? I can have a pipeline or a million clients, but if I don't have the technology to help me serve them, I can't do it on my own. Technology, the education of the technology, has opened up our eyes to holy moly, I can be 2 or 3 people at once if I set my priorities straight, based on a computer, based on a couple of different pieces of technology, based on a couple of different vendors. I no longer need 5 assistants to help me make this call or do this function or do this feature. That's where online applications are coming in. That's where, this is where our consumers are engaging nowadays, period. Right. Technology is what it is that they understand. So whether we like it or not, technology is only moving forward. There's a part of me that hates that technology is starting to feel impersonal, right? I miss this stuff, Pablo. I miss being able to shake your hand, give you a hug, and say, brother, what's up? Nowadays, I feel like the real go-getters are the people that are very much understanding that there's a clear delineation between technology and the personal aspect, and bringing them together is really, to me, where the future is. Because, listen, we've the nation, all of us, we've been through a really hard couple of years, respectively, based on COVID, or what it was that we dealt with. All of us, the way that we all work, it doesn't matter what industry we're in any longer. It's completely shaped and changed our mind. But we were stuck to a certain extent. We were almost imprisoned at one point in our life. In the last couple of years, we were stuck inside the house, right? And now what I'm finding is, and Pablo, you may be seeing this too, but now I'm getting consumers and they want to come back into the office. They want to meet again. So we went from this personal business in which everything was done based on a handshake and a face-to-face, into this technology related sector where no one wanted to shake a hand. They didn't even want to talk on the phone. They just wanted a text message or an email. And now I feel like we're stumbling into this 2023 hybrid of best practice. That's what I would, if I sat down with anybody today, I would say, trust your technology, but understand who your consumer is. Right. And if you trust your technology and you set your technology up right, but you really understand your consumer, there is always a way to bridge those two into a point where there's no gap and you can keep that consumer happy. Right. I like this much. I will tell you this much as an LO, you as an agent, when we have good news to give, and Pablo, I'm trying not to speak for you, but when I want to give good news, you better believe I'm picking up the phone. That means something to me. In my opinion, that means something to the consumer. And the biggest thing that I always try to remember is that I'm a consumer myself, right? So what would I have wanted somebody to do with good news or bad news?
Right.
So to me, this industry is heading in a direction, and all industries are just heading in this direction of, technology it's this teeter-totter moment, right? Technology is taking over. Now things are kind of coming back. And I just kind of love this even keel way and feel of doing business. And now the technology is actually, it syncs all of us up. It syncs me with my title agents and my insurance agents. And, there's applications out there that allow all of us to go ahead and speak freely amongst each other or a group of people that we're working with. But I never forget the importance of the end user, right?
I think, and you and I have talked about this, where technology should really serve two purposes. One, it should help me get in front of as many people as possible that I can serve, right? That I'm able to help and able to serve, number one. And number two, it should make efficient my time as the business owner, as the producer of the business. It should make it as efficient as possible to run my business as efficient as possible, so that not only do I serve my client, but also so that I can serve my team better, right? And so efficiency and almost, traffic, funneling people in. So those two things, if it can make it better, that should be the main purpose of technology. And then from there, still having the ability to have a conversation and be relatable and have a relationship and build a lifelong, commitment and service to a customer, right? So two different things, but one should help me get to the other one faster. That's really like, why do we have cars? Why, versus buggy, like a horse and buggy. It gets me where I am faster.
Technology is my fishing net, right?
Right.
That's what I'm casting out. Right. I'm bringing it in.
Yeah.
And then I'm choosing my keepers.
Yeah.
Right. Based on, how we align.
So let me bring it back to a question then about technology and relationships then, right? And whether I think this is maybe a philosophy or principle that you have, or maybe you have practical examples of this, who is doing it the best, where they have great technologies, but then they're also utilizing those technologies along with a training, a development of people, right? They're loan officers, young or old, right? I don't care, like experienced or, I call them seasoned, new or seasoned. I don't even say old anymore. Who's doing it right in the sense where it's like, hey, here's how you mix the two, right? And it shouldn't take you 2 years to figure it out after COVID. Here's how we can help you figure it out, like as soon as you get started with us.
I'll tell you this much. I don't know that this is the answer that you're looking for, but we're not here to do this. And that's part of
right. No, I'm curious.
We're so close,
Max
right? I'm dreaming of the singular vendor that figures out how to bridge all of these different types of gaps of communication and brings me into one. Mm-hmm. But today, as we know it, my technology will always consist of a point of sale, a system in which I can handle the point of sale at an operational level, mm-hmm. and then of course, a CRM. Right? An appropriate client relationship manager. Some people utilize that as their net or their catch-all, whether it's their existing business or utilizing it as, funnel lead business as I know it. So I feel like every day that goes by, we're getting closer to singular vendors who have really figured out an all-in-one package. But today, for me in my industry, I find that the biggest hitters and biggest players are actually utilizing vendors that they're not necessarily teaming up with each other. They're integrating their API features within each other so they can all complement each other.
Mhm.
Right. So I don't know of a singular vendor that does everything right, but I do know that, these individual technology sector vendors have realized this is what we're good at. This is what I'm good at. This is what this person's good at.
Right.
What would happen if we all got in the same room and said, I'll give you this if you give me that, and you give me that if I give you this. And now we can have an ecosphere that encompasses all of the same, prerogatives that we have in serving a client, right?
Right. Now, okay, so vendors aside, right? Because I would just imagine, right, Max, and you and I haven't jumped into, your process or your onboarding for your
Sure.
team. And I do want to get to know a little bit more about like your culture and how you
Yeah.
identify that. But really, this question is more about when I was asking about who's doing it right, is who are the organizations, right? Not the vendors, who are like the lenders, who are the agencies, who
Yeah.
are the brokers. And hey, don't be bashful. If you think you're
Yeah.
doing a kick-ass job at it, maybe it's you too. But who are the ones that are saying, here's what we put together for you tech-wise, and
Uh-huh.
here's how you leverage that to
Yeah.
be their forever lender, right?
Yeah. So, one organization that comes to mind, despite the fact it's broker facing, if you're in the mortgage world, we've heard of them,
Mhm.
UWM, United
Mhm.
Wholesale Mortgage.
Mhm.
They have built a technology-based platform in which, if you never originated a loan in your life, they've figured out a way to make it easy for the consumer, for the
Mhm.
broker, right? Um, they put so much money and love into their actual technology. Uh, they have, I think, the closest all-in-one package in my space.
Mhm.
At a retail related level, my goodness, I can think of a lot of lenders.
Right.
Fairway comes to mind. Movement Mortgage. There is, Pablo, there's so many companies that do this stuff right.
Right.
Everybody's model is just a little bit different. Everybody knows that if you go to Fairway, it is very much because you're looking for a customer service, customer centric, relationship related experience, and they exude that in the experience at a consumer level.
Mhm.
With UWM, it's very much technologically based, right?
Right.
Getting quick answers, immediate answers. It's all based on a system, the algorithms that they build to build this system, but you get it quick.
Right.
What's really interesting about the broker space in a whole is we get to pick and choose the lenders based on the consumer that I'm working with.
Mhm.
I'm going to be honest with you, Pablo. Like if I've got an individual and they like for me to pick up the phone, and these are things, by the way, that I disseminate from the get-go.
Mhm.
I reach out to this individual via telephone and I say, hey, what is your preferred method of communication? I think that that's one of the bigger losing pieces that we don't necessarily understand, because if we're not catering to what the consumer is used to or wants, we're not doing anything for the consumer experience. They're going to forget about me when I'm done with them, right? I'll be the person who called too much, or I'll be the person who only text message, right? So again, not to get, too sidetracked, so to speak, but
Yeah.
in the mortgage space, you really have your technology based players and you've got your customer service based players.
Okay.
And the hardest part too, Pablo, is unfortunately I can't singularize any of it. And the reason is specifically because all of these players, they all have their own niche. Some of them, they want to see government paper. Some of them only want to see vanilla A paper borrowers, as me and you may
Sure.
know. Vanilla is just always what we referred to it as. So to be perfectly honest with you, that was kind of like I was saying, I still don't know anybody who does it right. And Pablo, I've got access to like hundreds of lenders.
Right.
I'm approved with probably 15 or 20. There are some that I love doing business with because they pick up the phone every time. There are some that I love doing business with because if I have the time to sit down and key in everything, I'm getting immediate answers.
Yeah.
But
Well, listen, Max, I love your humility and your confidence to be able to talk about even, competitors. And but you and I, we have this open mind, right? There's no scarcity mindset. There's plenty of business to go around. But I appreciate you sharing that. And also being, humble enough to not even kind of mention just a quick plug for Max. If anyone's watching this or listening to this and you're looking for a true leader, in the loan officer space, in the mortgage space, and you want to try working with someone who has authority, but also has integrity and the humility and, humility, hunger and smarts, as Patrick Lencioni says, right? Humility, hunger, and smarts. This is the guy. Just give him a call. Max, we'll get your information. We'll have all that available. Let's take a diversion now. Let's kind of come into a fork in the road.
Okay.
You and I have had a conversation about why it might make sense for somebody in the insurance world, and specifically, we talked about niches just now.
Yeah.
Why does it make sense for someone in the mortgage protection space like myself to maybe have a conversation with you, a mortgage broker, right? Like, why? Let's talk about that, unpack that a little bit. I'm just curious from your perspective, because a lot of people that are listening to this may or may not be from the mortgage world, but they're certainly going to be from the mortgage protection, life insurance world.
Right. So I think that one of the ways that I've always felt, Pablo, is that we naturally gravitate toward the things that we absolutely need. So feel where I'm coming from here. Like my whole life since I've been a licensed driver, I've needed automobile insurance, right? I've needed health insurance. As I got older, as I had children, I needed life insurance. The way that I think as a consumer of all of these products is I naturally gravitate toward the people that I know can get me pointed in the right direction so that I don't feel like I'm wasting time. Right. Listen, if I need, something insurance related, I know exactly to go where to go because I'm forced placed to have all of this, whether it's homeowners insurance or automobile insurance, and then we look at the bigger pictures, right? Our children, our future, where is that, going? Our spouses, our loved ones, right? And so, to be perfectly honest with you, Pablo, like for me, I gravitate toward my insurance agent, right? They may not handle a life policy, or they may not handle this type of insurance or that type of insurance, but as a consumer, they've protected me through all of the hurricanes that I've dealt with, or any of the other, features that I've dealt with. And I trust them to point me in the right direction. And so to me, where I'm going with this is this cyclical relationship, right? My insurance agents know that if somebody is looking for a mortgage related product, hey, I regularly work with Max. I regularly work with this person or that person. So as a consumer, my insurance agent said they naturally gravitate toward the person that they speak to the most often. Right. Listen, technology is wonderful, Pablo. I can jump online and I can get a Google list of a million different, individuals, and that's all fine and dandy, but technology can only take me so far. I do think that it is. I do think that it's taking over. I do think that, we're not turning away from technology, but there is still an adage in humans as an element of what a human is to lean or gravitate toward the person that you trust or that you feel like can help you. Right.
Yeah. There's a very large company in the life insurance space that was supposed to be basically 100% technology driven, right? Other than the admins in the background and the underwriters and so forth. And it gotten to the point where so many of those clients had wanted to actually work with somebody or needed to speak to someone that now they're backlogged with hiring, right? because they're underserving their clients. And so it's interesting, right? It's like you can't just be the tech side. But it's interesting to hear you know, because really it's the same conversation on the mortgage side we were just having
Right.
about being good at both, right? And being
Yeah.
able to mold both of them. But let's fast forward, because I'm just curious, right? Let's kind of dive in from a client perspective, right? So let's say Max has, you know, you've got your clients that you're helping. These are brand new homeowners, and forget demographics and you know, sociographics and geographic. But just let's look at, like you talked about, right? Life needs, right? Somebody is now a homeowner. You're either saving them money because they've gotten a refinance, right? And you're able to consolidate debt, you're saving them money, or they're in this brand new home and maybe they've got some equity or maybe they don't. But now all of a sudden there is this, you know, in most cases, right, the number one investment in their lifetime, the biggest holding that they'll ever have in their lifetime. You know, I believe that in insurance, we need to do a really good job, or really in financial services across the board, we need to really do a really good job of educating clients that, hey, the same way that when you're done buying this house, one of the first vendors that's going to be at your door is going to be the guy that's going to want to stick a security system right on your wall to protect it from a burglary, someone breaking in, right? And does that happen? Yes, that happens. But we also need to do a better job of just letting them know, say, hey, you need to put a security system on you.
Mhm.
Because if you don't come home tonight, okay, and it's not when, it's the day that you don't come home.
Right.
Is your family, are your children in a position where, hey, you know what? Yes, we're going to go through that emotion, but financially, are they in a place where they're going to be okay? And so, you know, we hear of what happens with the families that are not prepared. We know that because we hear those phone calls, and every, you know, so many reasons of foreclosures and bankruptcies is not due to the economy. It's due to not planning for something.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to health, life and health, right?
I'm dealing with a personal familial situation, which I've got a very sick family member right now. And we're not covered, you know, in that particular access, in that particular space, right? And you know, listen, without getting emotional, I want to believe that I'll live forever, but I better understand that that's just not, you know, possible. There are many things that as I get older, I wish that I would have educated myself deeper into understanding how I can help leave my legacy, so to speak. Not that it's a legacy by any means. This is just me we're talking about, right? But
everyone has their own legacy.
what I do want to know is that when I can't come home for whatever reason unknown, I do want to know that you know, my spouse will be okay as can be given the circumstances, that you know, my children will still have an ability to get a higher education if they so choose, that you know, everything amongst my will, my personal assets, that everything is going to be taken care of. And you know, Pablo, this stuff costs money. And so it's easy for us to gripe about paying like a monthly dividend into something that we're never going to personally see. But when you look at the bigger picture and you fly 30,000 feet overhead, it's the right thing to do.
Right. Yeah. There's so and I want to just touch on that for anyone listening in on this. Many of you might already know this, and some people don't, and it's a myth. And it's a myth that's changed because of times and because of the need, is that life insurance is actually today, as it stands today, is and in many cases is actually for your life. And so what I mean by that is old life insurance was a you die, we pay strategy. It's not even a strategy. It's just you know, it's cause and effect.
Yes.
When you pass away, that's when we deliver a check. Okay. Today it's not that. And if you're only working in the circumstance where you believe that is, or that's what you're being, you know, that's what you're hearing, just know that there are other options. And those options are, there are plans, there are policies, there are strategies now that have living benefits. so that not only when you pass away, yes, that's the first effect, but the other ones are when you're alive. So if you have a heart attack, a stroke, cancer diagnosis, and they don't take you out, right? They don't, which means it's going to cost money, right? Just having that and not having had, any kind of policy or anything, that's going to affect moving forward the rest of your life. Well, there are plans out there that allow you to access policy death benefits while you're alive, tax-free, to be able to make up for and bridge that gap. And then, of course, there are plans, that allow you to grow tax-free money, right? To in a safe haven, grow tax-free money inside of the constructs of life insurance. And so that you can access those funds later in the future for whatever it might be. Get your kids to college, be an income for you, invest in a business, and without being privy to the market, subject to market losses. So think of those living benefits too, because anyone that's looking at life insurance, yes, the old kind was just that: you die, we pay. But now it's so much more than that, right?
Pablo, and that just, goes to show that I don't know what I don't know, so I'm sitting here talking to you, of which you're a, professional in your space. I know of the you die, we pay. It's only actually in recent months and speaking with you that I've really understood that there are completely different types of policies out there. They call it life insurance. I think that it just triggers this concept in my head because of what it's called. But today I'm over here, being educated in this space of which, you better believe that, I think about these things, and that if something happens to me that I think about my loved ones, so I enjoy this opportunity, just jumping on this, cast with you, in learning something as I sit here organically that I never would have thought about. Pablo, look what my definition of life insurance was. I die. Someone takes care of the rest, right? So I'm here learning, just as the rest of these possible viewers.
Listen, I mean, you mentioned the word ARM, right? In the last 5 years of products and where rates have been. And some people will just slam a door, slam a phone, hang up on you simply because they're like, there's this stigma.
Yes.
But the truth is, a one word or one product does not mean that it's not right for you. There are people that this is absolutely perfect for.
Yeah.
Right. And if you look at a strategy and the way that you structure, and that's where, experts like you and me, we can look at the situation, and that's where technology comes in, because it helps us immediately be able to identify what makes sense. But as long as then we can educate and have a conversation based on your needs and your why, really. So sorry to ramble back.
No, but legacy stigmas are the problem with today's society. To a certain extent, you know what I mean? We've heard a word and it's been, associated with, something for so long, that's the only thing that it is that we hear or see. Right. But I'm never too proud to pick up something new or learn,
It's true, man. And it's, and it's my wife, it's so funny. She was in insurance for a while with me, and then when we had our kids, she wanted to take time away and do that. But it was funny because her being on this like health kick, and she works for a health organization now. It's a nonprofit, but she came across something that stuck with her and she shared it with me. And I thought it was just so profound. It had literally had nothing to do with finances or insurance, but she said, Pablo, we need to take control of our lives and our livelihoods and our health. And the way, and one way to live by is that if I'm going to die, it is not going to be my fault. Right. And the only way we can know that is we educate ourselves on, okay, what are the ways that it can be our fault? Right. So for example, one of the things she shares is that is what we eat, what we consume. Right. And if we're not educated in what we're putting in the gas tank,
right,
that it's actually hurting the engine, versus the taste.
There's a difference between regular and premium.
That's right. And diesel and regular,
And
right?
there's a cost associated difference too. Hey,
Sure.
it's up to the consumer, you know,
Yeah.
what flavor do you want?
Right, right. And what's great is that we can, when we can start to identify the longevity of that, right? And you talk
Right.
about legacy. And for me, part of my legacy is going to be here, is going to be to be here as long as possible with a quality of life that me and my children, my wife can, can enjoy. And when I'm gone, I think it's an and, right? Not just a or. Hey, so I know we're coming up on our time.
Yes.
What I'd like to hear of is, and maybe you can share a struggle that you've had and maybe how you've come over. I mean, listen, since I've known you, you've always been, progressively going towards a new goal, right? Or not a new goal, just a goal that was expanding, which is what I think goals are about, right? It's the
Yeah.
next level. Maybe if you want to share like a struggle and a story of overcoming, to maybe leave some inspiration for our audience that are business builders, because there's a lot of agency owners and business builders that are
Yeah.
going to be listening to this. If you don't mind.
No, I don't. And Pablo, my struggle is very real and it's happening as I sit here talking to you.
Mm,
And I've got no shame, in sharing. And a lot of us in the mortgage industry are very much in this same struggle today. It is the fact that my business is cyclical. When it is good, it's the best, and when it's the best, it provides very well, for the family, respectively, based on how hard we choose to work, right?
mhm,
Um, um, Pablo, this last year, really kind of starting January 2021, when the rate environment, started kind of, going up, and when margin compression started occurring. And we're still dealing with all of this today, Pablo. I look around, thousands of people are unemployed as a result of what's happened in the mortgage facing and specific industry. And my heart goes out because I haven't been in this place since, well, 2010, right? I don't remember a mortgage related world since 2010 that has felt this volatile, so to speak. Now, when I say volatile, it's not because it's not the right choice to make. If you're ready to purchase a home today, that's all besides the point. It's been a long time since, I've seen, such sharp swings in rates. We're all so used to everything just kind of tapering that you blink and you didn't know that they went up. Tomorrow I could wake up and the rates could spike a quarter. And that's, happening to, all of us lately. And what's happened is, Pablo, we got so greedy. All of us got so greedy within the industry over the last couple of years because we had these low rate environments. Nobody had ever dealt with, well, not in my lifetime. I've never dealt with, a pandemic. I didn't understand how a pandemic was going to change the way that I worked, every single day. I didn't understand the pandemic was going to bring me some of the most fruitful times in my entire life. And then January of this year kind of hit. And in my opinion, that's kind of when it really kind of like just, started. And it started before that. But Pablo, these waves, they have to hit the shore, sometime.
mhm,
So I went from having, very high producing LOs in a retail related environment, to having nobody to call all of a sudden. And I watch my friends and family in this mortgage related industry who are still looking for jobs today. And now there's this stigma about people in the mortgage industry, like, it's hard for these people to get employed in different sectors, to be perfectly honest with you, Pablo, because when stuff goes south, we're the problem,
mhm,
seemingly, right? Think of how much GDP, right? Gross domestic, mortgage accounts for, mortgage bank accounts for it, um, and it crushed me. It absolutely crushed me. I started falling out of love with what it is that I loved so much because everybody around me hurt, so bad. And at one point or another, right about October of this last year, I had a couple talks with a couple people that I really, admire, yourself too. We've both been through a heck of a lot, right? And I just, for whatever reason, and I don't know why it took 40 trips around the sun for me to figure this out, Pablo, but for whatever reason, I just sat here and I realized we are all dealing with something, some sort of battle. It doesn't matter. This industry, it doesn't matter about that. Everybody is dealing with something. So after I sulked and after I stood up and after I did this number, I said, is there something that I can do? Something that I can provide, something that I can grow to give some of these people opportunity back. So my overcoming story is something that I'm smack in the middle of today.
Yeah.
I've been open since October. Starting in October, I thought this was the worst idea that we had ever had. And things are picking up a little bit, and it's different. Business is different now. Business is shaping itself different in the future. But if I can make an opportunity out of this situation, if I can rise above this hardship that I've dealt with and just turn around and provide that opportunity for the people that hurt, because not everything is easy, right? And if I can provide opportunity to help a mortgage professional, provide for their family in some way, shape, or form, whether it's onboarding them as my own loan officer or educating somebody as to what's happening in the market today. I'm overcoming my own personal challenge by personally challenging others and doing what I can do to open up a door for them. Because at some point or another, somebody opened up a door for me. I don't remember when I charged through it, but that's where I am now today, brother.
Wow. Maximilian Masters, brother. I appreciate your heart, your transparency, your authenticity. Listen, you're going to stick around here after the show, but how can folks find you if they want to learn more about you and your services?
Folks can find me via Google, Timeless Mortgage. All of our information is there. We lend in Florida, South Carolina. We're going into North Carolina this year, Virginia this year. We're really getting ready. We're ramping up responsibly because if anybody is listening on this phone call right now and in this space or in any space in which they're jumping into an endeavor, do so responsibly. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and none of us knew that we would be here today. So if I can offer any words of wisdom to anybody, business is inside, business outside, it's don't forget those dreams. Don't forget your hope. Keep charging for the future. Don't let anything go, but don't put your cart too far ahead of the horse, respectively.
Max, you're in North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm located in Wilmington, North Carolina. Okay. My corporate office is in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah. So anyone looking for a referral partner, if you're listening to this and you're in that area, I mean, listen, we all work virtually now as well, but if you're in that area and you want to swing by and give Max a visit, looking for an amazing referral partner, you've heard it here today. He is open for business. Brother, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Look forward to having you again.
Absolutely. I can't wait, brother.